Good morning, everybody. I'm Ashley Stevens, Senior Multi-Platform Content Producer at Black Enterprise. Excited to be here again in the Queen City of Charlotte at the Lowe's Tech Hub. We're excited to welcome each of you here. This is our HBCU Town Hall. But before we kick off our Town Hall discussion, join me in welcoming Black Enterprise's CEO, Mr. Earl Butch Graves, Jr.
Welcome to all of you. As Ashley said, I'm Earl Butch Graves, Jr. I'm the CEO of Black Enterprise, and it's my pleasure to welcome you, all of you, to our special Black Enterprise Town Hall, appropriately titled, How HBCUs Create the Best and Brightest, hosted by our good friends at Nationwide. As we gather this morning at this magnificent venue, the Lowe's Tech Hub, I want to begin by applauding all of you for your unwavering commitment and partnership in our creation and expansion of platforms to showcase diverse talent and offer opportunities to future tech innovators and business leaders. I am excited, truly, that we are presenting today's session, which serves as a precursor to an event we'll be hosting in Charlotte in roughly 2 months, the 9th Annual Black Enterprise Be Smart Hackathon, one of the most anticipated tech competitions of the year. Before we get started, I wanted to share a brief history of one of Black Enterprise's most powerful offerings. Roughly a decade ago, I met with a number of high-ranking executives of some of our nation's leading tech companies in Silicon Valley. And when the topic invariably turned to recruitment, I was consistently told by the leadership that they had great difficulty in identifying African-American talent. Instead of making the argument that our country has an overabundance of young, brilliant African-American men and women equipped with razor-sharp minds and dexterous technical and engineering skills, I simply told them that since you can't find them, I, Black Enterprise, would bring the talent to them. Simply put, these executives were not fishing where the fish are. Our historically Black colleges and universities, which for decades have produced some of our nation's top professionals, bar none. After bringing groups of gifted HBCU students to Silicon Valley year after year, the questions and doubts from those same executives quickly turned to interview requests and job offers. Along with that shift, the number of companies coveting such talent expanded and continues to do so. That's why I am so proud of our Be Smart Hackathon. It has met its goal of providing a showcase for HBCU students to display their technical prowess and gain exposure to the top companies in global business, all of which have been driven by business models and technology. One major adjustment over the years has included our change of venues. For instance, over the past few years, we have held our competition in Dallas, Texas, headquarters for our lead sponsor and great partner, American Airlines. And now on November 14th through 17th, we are thrilled and refreshed to hold our event here in North Carolina, a state that boasts some 11 HBCUs, including Johnson C. Smith, a leading institution here in the heart of Charlotte, as well as being among the participating schools since our competition's inception. I'm extremely proud to say that our hackathon has grown from 5 schools and 20 students in 2015 to 25 schools with 180 HBCU students, forming 36 teams last year in 2023. We will have a similar representation this year in the Queen City, a hub for innovation and opportunity. One of the highlights of our Be Smart Hackathon is connecting with extraordinary students who have traveled across this country to compete in our event. And this year will be no different. One of the reasons that our competition makes me beam with pride is that my father, the late Black Enterprise founder and publisher Earl Graves Sr., was an alumnus of Morgan State University, a leading HBCU that has been among the competitors since the event's inception. Just as we will present this impressive collection of students, we will share in our town hall today why it is absolutely vital that corporate America fully embraces and enthusiastically recruits these young, diverse, talented, diverse professionals who are best of class. As we kick off today's discussion, I must note that events such as our Be Smart Hackathon happen as a result of shared vision and partnership. And we at Black Enterprise could not have found a better collaborator and champion than American Airlines, that has not only hosted our hackathon, but has brought passion, commitment, and engagement of their representatives to our showcase, as well as to continue to provide educational and employment opportunities to these same students. We continue to salute their decision and insistence to return as a sponsor, as well as their significant contributions to our competition. Thank you, American Airlines. Now, at this time, please welcome to the stage Mr. Cedric Rockamore. He's the Chief Diversity Officer for American Airlines.
All right, thank you, Butch. This is a beautiful campus. I guess it's okay for me to call it a campus, but it is beautiful. I've had an opportunity to work with Butch, and I've had a front row seat to his dedication and commitment. And I should say, Butch, you should be very proud of the work you do. I know firsthand that it is your passion and that you are serious about this work. So I wanted to acknowledge you, and I think we should give Butch Graves an acknowledgement. So good morning. It is indeed a pleasure to join you here today as we partner with Black Enterprise to host the 9th annual Black Enterprise Smart Hackathon this coming November. At American, one of our top priorities is to recruit the best and brightest talent for our airline. We believe that the diversity is about representation. People have to see themselves reflected in our products and our services. Equity, we believe, is about fairness, and inclusion is about creating a sense of belonging. You can have an inclusive workspace, you can have inclusive language, yet folks can still show up wondering if they truly belong. So belonging is the end game for us. This is not just about one demographic or one gender. This is about all of us. Representation is about everyone. We want folks to fly with us, we want people to work with us, and we want people to invest in us. We're committed to making our culture a competitive advantage. We do this by raising awareness, providing access, and creating opportunities for careers in aviation. Many folks, myself being one of them, grew up where it was not even possible. At least we didn't think about careers in aviation when we thought about it, and we want to make sure that that is not the case. Our support of the hackathon helps create pathways for HBCU students to showcase their talents and make meaningful connection. This event is more than just a competition. It's a celebration of the incredible talent within our HBCU communities and an opportunity to support and nurture talent. Many of the innovative minds who have participated in past hackathons have gone on to join American, and we have a few of our team members here, bringing their unique insights and solutions that are driving our business forward today. They are making contributions. Since 2020, we've hired nearly 50 team members from previous hackathons. So if you, yes, that's a round of applause. And so if that number seems small, I would challenge you, go out and find 50 black IT professionals, and then we can talk. So we know that we have much work to do, but we are incredibly proud, and these have been quality, solid team members. So again, the work that Black Enterprise is doing, and it's just amazing. So I'll leave it there. While we've hosted the last 2 hackathons at our Fort Worth campus, we're excited for this year to be held in Charlotte, our second largest hub, and American employs more than 17,500 people here in North Carolina, including about 15,000 of those team members at Charlotte Airport alone. So thanks to our presence at the Charlotte Airport, that airport contributes $32 billion annually to the state's economy. So we're thrilled to continue to invest in Charlotte with this year's hackathon, playing a role in fostering the next generation of tech leaders. By supporting this event, we're not only building pipelines for our talent for American Airlines, but ensuring that our industry reflects the diverse customers we serve. This hackathon is just one of many ways that we can empower diverse talent, drive progress toward a more inclusive environment for all. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing everyone this fall.
So thank you, Cedric. I would also now like to take a moment to recognize Lowe's. Not only did they make this marvelous venue available to us for this important conversation, but it has continually made investment in HBCUs like Johnson C. Smith, and as such, we are proud to have them join our Be Smart Hackathon as a first-time sponsor. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Lowe's. To share remarks, please welcome to the stage Tanya Ellison, Director, Emerging Talent in Tech for Lowe's.
We're thrilled to have everyone here with us today here at the Lowe's Tech Hub. This is a state-of-the-art example of how important technology is to Lowe's, and it's really the example of our investment into Lowe's. In technology into Lowe's. We understand how technology is baked into every area of our business, and so we also understand how important it is to cultivate the best and brightest talent there is in technology. You all may be familiar with our Mooresville corporate campus, but this campus serves as the campus and the center of excellence for all of our technology associates. So everyone who works in an area of technology works in this building, which was built and opened in 2022. Cultivating our future talent pipeline is so important to us and is an integral part of our business. We're so thrilled to be part of the Be Smart Hackathon. And as a leader in emerging talent, our Launchpad program, that's exactly what we're tasked to do. We know how critical it is to build young minds, to foster them, upskill them, and give them all the tools to be successful. Our Launchpad program is unique to Charlotte. Now, there are others that have programs like this, but we like to say that ours is the best. As we onboarded over 350 in the last 24 months into the program. So they are all housed here, and some of them are here today in the red vest. So let's give them a round of applause. We invite aspiring technologists with or without a traditional college four-year degree to apply to be part of our program. It is a rotational experience where they are assigned to a technology mentor, also soft skills and additional advanced technology skills. And all of the participants in Launchpad are full-time associates. This is not an internship. This is full-time associates. And they join one of our many departments in 9 of our disciplines, software engineering all the way to data scientists and data engineering and cybersecurity, to name a few. They join in one of those disciplines and receive additional upskilling so that we can advance them for advancement through the company. We began this program, as I said, in 2022, and now we're over 350 associates. And as a proud member and alumni of the illustrious North Carolina A&T State University, I am grateful to work for a company like Lowe's, a company that sees the value in the best and brightest talent at HBCUs. We continue to strive. We continue to strive to find the best and brightest talent out there, and we know that that requires pouring our support into HBCUs and seeing the value in the students that they produce. And so that all of our students, we want all students. We want to be able to attract students from a very diverse pool, we know that all students deserve an opportunity, and we hope that some of the students through the hackathon find a home here at Lowe's. So again, thank you and welcome to the Lowe's Tech Hub.
So thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Lowe's, for your continued support and being a first-time sponsor here in Charlotte for the hackathon. Thank you very much. Once again, let's give a round of applause to all of our partners for their time and effort today. Now it is time for our conversation. Today we will discuss the value of HBCUs and how these institutions produce top talent that drives innovation and competitiveness at our nation's corporations. We have found the perfect moderator for our session, Black Enterprise Senior Multi-Platform Content Producer, Ashley Stevens. In her role at Black Enterprise, she has produced our Classes In session podcast about the latest trends among HBCUs, its students, administrators, and alumni. She's also been instrumental in coordinating and hosting the Black Enterprise Be Smart Hackathon. Now welcome to the stage to lead our town hall conversation, Ms. Ashley Stevens.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello and welcome. Welcome, everybody, to this special Black Enterprise Town Hall, how HBCUs create the best and the brightest. Did you know this? If they were a company, the nation's 101 HBCUs collectively would be ranked number 50 in the Forbes 500 list, Fortune 500 companies. Yes, that's because HBCUs generate more than $16.5 billion in economic impact in the U.S., creating more than 136,000 jobs and generating $146 billion in lifetime earnings for the collective HBCU graduating class of 2021. That's according to a newly released UNCF report, the 2024 UNCF HBCU Economic Impact Report. So when we think about lifetime earnings of graduates, it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the partnerships by some of the very folks and corporations in this room, because they invest in students to attract them, to train them, to invest in internships, entry-level positions that go on to grow them so they can remain competitive in the field, especially in the tech jobs. We also heard from Mr. Rockamore earlier that there were 50 former hackathon participants who had been hired by American Airlines. That's a really big deal, and that's what this is all about, to make sure that the companies are partnering together with HBCUs to make tangible investments in our students so that they can be competitive in the workforce. So this special town hall discussion today will focus on how HBCUs and corporate America can best collaborate to position African American students to take advantage of educational and career opportunities to succeed in today's rapidly changing workforce. So today we're going to explore corporate recruitment and retention of HBCU graduates, the impact of increased enrollment and college affordability, corporate investments in internships and job training, how advanced technology and AI are also impacting the workforce and recruitment, and we'll also place a spotlight on our 9th annual Black Enterprise Be Smart Hackathon, which again takes place in the Queen City, November 14th through the 17th. And there's lots of mentorship opportunities as well, so we'll get into that. Without further ado, I would like to introduce my panelists here today. So I'm going to welcome them onto the stage, and if you would help me welcome them as well. First, we have Charlita C. Hatch, Chief Data and Analytics Officer with the City of Charlotte. Next, we have Michelle Latkin, Director, Crew Platform Technology, American Airlines. Dr. Patrick Martin, the Dean of the College of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, and Professor of Biology at Johnson C. Smith University. And last but not least, Chief Diversity Officer at Google, Ms. Melanie Parker. Wonderful. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Listen, I'm excited to have each of you, and I want the audience to know. We have a live audience at Lowe's Tech Hub here in Charlotte, as well as those of you who are watching our virtual town hall. The panelists here are a really big deal. They are really, really respected professionals in their own right, as they are each doing what they can. As proud HBCU alum, all of them have graduated from HBCUs, which I think is also a big deal to talk about the continuity of not only showing up in that space, but even in your professional work, making sure you're helping students to make it to and through college and on to successful careers. So before we hop into our discussion, I want to tell you a little bit about each panelist. Here we have Charlita C. Hatch. She was appointed the inaugural Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the City of Charlotte in June 2024, where she oversees the Innovation and Data Division for the 15th largest city in the country. Prior to this, Charlita was a nationally recognized business change agent and consultant with clients including IBM, Accenture, and Slalom. The published author is a proud HBCU alumna of Hampton University. Welcome, Charlita. I am so excited to have Ms. Michelle Latkin, Director of Crew Platform Technology at American Airlines, where she has been with the company for nearly 39 years. That's a big deal, very big deal. She's previously served as Senior Manager, Applications Development, and is a proud HBCU alumna of Southern University and Agricultural and Mechanical College at Baton Rouge. Welcome, Ms. Latkin. And Dr. Patrick Martin, the Dean of the College of STEM and also Professor of Biology at Johnson C. Smith, with his research focusing on examining cancers that are more aggressive in African Americans. Dr. Martin's work has been featured in more than 25 news articles and related presentations. He's a proud alum of Virginia Union University, and Dr. Martin became the first African American to earn a PhD in cell biology from the University of Virginia. Yes. And last but not least, Melanie Parker as Google's Chief Diversity Officer and Chief Steward Officer. She's a human resources executive responsible for advancing Google's employee engagement strategy across diversity, equity, and inclusion. An innovative thought leader and C-suite strategist, Melanie has received numerous recognitions for her work, including Savoy Magazine's 2023 Most Influential Executives in Diversity and Inclusion. She's a proud alumna of Hampton University as well, and she holds a master's in human resources from Villanova University. Welcome, Melanie Parker. Well, listen, as I told you all, this panel is a really big deal. We have top-notch experts here with us to get into this discussion on how HBCUs create the best and the brightest. And how do they know? Because they are the proud products of HBCUs. So I want to hear from each of you. Why did you choose your respective HBCU? I'll start with Charlita.
All right, thank you for having me. Good morning. And so when I think about the ability to be a first-generation college student, and I didn't have, a playbook or a framework. And so as I was looking at different colleges here in North Carolina where I'm a native, I had a guidance counselor who introduced me to HBCUs. And what she told me was something that always stuck with me. It was the one time in my life where I'd have the opportunity to be around thousands of Black people seeking an education and have that type of community. And I knew that would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so I know making the decision to go to Hampton has transformed me and made me the person I am today.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. Ms. Latkin, Southern University.
Yes, good morning, everyone. For me, going to Southern University, I always knew that's where I would go. I have a family of about, of maybe 15 of them that have attended Southern University. I knew that's where I would go, but many didn't know that's where I would go. I was one that went to Southern on an academic and a sports scholarship in track. I had scholarships to many other colleges, but Southern was in my heart. It was what my family had grew up. I seen them with PhDs, I seen them with masters, I seen them in many other environments where they excel. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to excel with people that I knew that looked like me. And I did that. So Southern University was my choice, and I continued down that path. And right now, where I'm at is I try to have where others to excel them in that space as well, attending HBCUs, because I know what they bring to the table.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to hear that. Dr. Martin, Virginia Union University.
Yes, well, good morning, and thank you for having me on the panel. Virginia Union University, to me, was a pretty easy choice. At least the HBCU was an easy choice. I looked at both my parents, my aunts, my uncles. I looked at my brother. He went to a majority institution his first year, and then he ended up transferring to Hampton, and I saw the difference once he transferred to Hampton. I grew up going to the CIAA tournament. The bands were playing during the basketball game. And then I said, I saw the forehead pop out in my dad's, the vein in my dad's forehead pop out each time he wrote a tuition check for my brother. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to see that, because good things don't happen that week. So I said, you know, I was going to go where I could get a scholarship. And I was fortunate to get a full academic ride to Virginia Union University. And that's why I decided to go. And also, I had a really strong guidance counselor pushing me, my mom pushing me to go to HBCU, who herself is an HBCU graduate. And one of the final things, I look back now, it's 16 of us on both sides of my family. We have 16 grandchildren. We have 15 HBCU graduates out of the 16 grandchildren.
Yep. That's remarkable. That's remarkable. Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Parker.
So I'm, thank you for inviting me to be here with you today and with our distinguished panelists. I, like Charlita, I'm a native North Carolinian and first generation college. I grew up in High Point and in the backyard of North Carolina A&T and Bennett College. So those experiences growing up, really, it was an easy choice for me too to go to Hampton. And I had a cousin that had gone to Hampton the year before I did. And so it was an easy sell to my parents to let me leave the state to go to Hampton University. And one of the things that I found that I tell other young people, a unique characteristic of HBCUs is that of all of the experiences that you have, you are in the majority on that campus. And if there's something that you didn't achieve or you didn't get, it's not because you're Black, because you're among Black community. And that is a unique experience, at least in America, that we're in these spaces where we're the majority and where race isn't centered the way that we find in some of the other spaces that we occupy. And that, along with, Hampton's motto is, that we educate for life and we let our lives do the singing. And so as I've lived that out, it's truly been, the inspiration that being on a smaller campus with teachers that actually lived on campus when I was there, that believed in me, that I drew inspiration from.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and you talk about, HBCU students being among peers while they're on campus, but we know that when they get to the workplace, it may be a different story. You may be one of the only ones who looks like you or had a similar experience as you. Let's talk a little bit about just job preparedness and competitiveness. What makes an HBCU student competitive? What makes them a competitive candidate for an employment, specifically in tech? I'll start with Dr. Martin.
Well, thank you. I think one of the things that makes our students so competitive is the fact that when people look at HBCUs, they don't think of the diversity that we have amongst our faculty. We have probably more diverse faculty at HBCUs than at your majority institutions. And so our students are immersed in that from day one. And then also just the competitiveness. I think Melanie said it the best. When you get there, you're amongst your peers. You can push each other to be the best. It's also a caring. If you're not the best that day, we're going to help you be the best. And then I think we intentionally, I can say this specifically at Johnson C. Smith, when it is time for our students to look for internships, we push them to go to places like American Airlines, Bank of America, Lowe's, so that they can begin to integrate into the real world. Not what we like to call the insulated environment that we have for them at 100 Beatties Ford or where we have at all 109 HBCUs, that they can go out and really get the feeling on that professional development, that emotional intelligence that they have to be successful in the workplace post-graduation.
I like that. Charlita, what else makes a HBCU student competitive or make them stand out in the field?
So as I mentioned, I'm a first-generation college student, and I've always been very driven. And so growing up, going through the matriculation of elementary, middle, and high school, I've always been one of the onlys in the space, so to Melanie's point. And so what I would strive for, unknowingly, was being the best Black girl, being the top Black girl. And really what was unlocked for me at Hampton was just being the best. And I think that characteristic is unique and a great experience to have as you go through your different technology careers, because it's not about being Black. It's not about being the best Black person, but it's just about being the best. And when you think about technology and the evolution of technology over the last several decades, you want people who want to be the best, who are looking to create and develop and innovate. And to do that, you have to have that resilient mindset. The other thing that I will offer up around like the HBCUs and what it gives to students in a unique way is the curiosity. And so I always tell people that I can hire it and teach you. I can reskill you. But you have to be willing to learn. And I think you get that curiosity at an HBCU.
Got it, got it. Very important. You get that curiosity at an HBCU. I'm going to come back to Ms. Parker to lead into some initiatives that I know are really special that each of your companies and university are working on. Ms. Ladkin, I would love for you to tell the audience, because you've spent nearly 4 decades at American Airlines, which I think is phenomenal. Tell us how you began your career at American Airlines and what someone saw in you as an HBCU graduate to bring you on board.
Wow. So let me just start off with, when I graduated from Southern, I went to Dallas. I went to Dallas for 2 months with a friend of mine. And before I left Dallas, I said, let me just put an application in to tell my parents I did look for a job. And in doing that, I always knew that I was going to go to Detroit and work in Detroit at a power and light company as it relates to technology. As I was going through that for a month, working through with the Detroit company, I was up there and I was about to accept the offer. I told my mother, I said, look, I'm going to accept the offer in the morning. American Airlines called that morning, that next morning. My mother accepted the job for me at American Airlines. She said that it was too far in Detroit, but I've been at American Airlines for 39 years. That's the path that I took in technology. I have a lot of domain knowledge. I'm just kind of very high in the technology space in the knowledge in the crew platform area. But that's not a recommendation that I would say for anybody else coming through that. I wouldn't recommend the path of staying in a place for 39 years. I would say, with my daughter, I tell her, look, I don't mind you just kind of going there, getting the lay of the land, understanding and so forth, achieving what you need to achieve. But in about 5 or 6 years, do something else. Either you're going to move around or either you move on to something else, and then you could come back. Because what that does is that they look at you and they say, oh, that's fresh eyes coming in. Because the first thing they'll tell you is, look, I need some fresh eyes to be in this department. And so when you've gone out and come in, you've gotten fresh eyes. And so that is what I say to individuals as compared to me being there 39 years. I tell them to go out. Go out and get other, knowledge and be creative in other areas, and then come back to that company if that's what you want to do. Because that's your way of moving around and helping you to propel, to excel to the next level in many areas.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know that means a lot to you to share that too. Advice to HBCU students and other young people starting their career. We think about, my parents' generation, there was such loyalty to one company, one corporation. And they think that it's funny now that younger folks, well, you've only been there a year, 2 years, that there is movement. But your point is that can help you make a student more competitive or recent graduate.
Exactly.
That's important. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Melanie Parker, I would love for you to talk about why it's important for companies to invest in HBCU students and share some of the really exciting initiatives that your company has in partnership with hiring, attracting, and retaining HBCU students. Then we'll hear from our other panelists.
So one of the things that we haven't talked about yet that I think is critical is that our HBCUs, we're not just developing students, we're developing leaders. So when you look at where HBCU students are, post-graduation, we are leading in so many areas. I mean, to be less than 9% of all universities and to look at the tremendous impact and value is incredible. So building on, that success, at Google, we have a number of programs that we have designed specifically for HBCU students. So first, I am really honored to lead an HBCU President's Council. So there are 12 institutions in our HBCU Council. We started this in 2021, and we started this initiative with a historic unrestricted grant of $50 million, where we gave the initial 10 schools that participated $5 million to the president so that the president had the option of directing those dollars where they knew that those dollars needed to go at that university. And that was just to reward and recognize the leadership's ability to do that. And then we started working with those presidents on advancing research. You know, one of the things that you may not know is that there aren't currently any HBCUs at R1 research standing. There are only 10 at R2. 5 of those 10 are in our President's Council. So we developed an applied research institute where we teach mathematical and computational sciences. We just graduated our first inaugural cohort this summer in partnership with United Negro College Fund and Thurgood Marshall College Fund, really doing our part, but also making sure that we're giving HBCU students hands-on research with AI, with machine learning, with the latest technology. We also have a program called Tech Exchange, where we bring HBCU students to our campuses for a full semester, and they get semester credit, and they are team taught with our Google team members as well as with their professors. And so we're spreading that learning back to the campuses through the professors that participate. Really, you know, our aim at ensuring that we have equity in the curriculum. And then very important, I want all of you to go to growwithgoogle.com. We have developed a set of career certificates like cybersecurity, data analytics. There are a number of programs that are self-study, self-paced. Coursera is the platform, and it's absolutely free, and it augments the college degree. And then for non-degree students, there are over 150 employers that accept these certificates in lieu of degree. And so these are just a handful of the initiatives that we're leading to do that. And then we are going to make an announcement later today with Howard University and NEAL. NEAL is the National Educational Equity Lab, where we're partnered with those two institutions and Title I high schools to provide college credit to Title I high schools. And so starting with the District of Columbia, students will be able to get a minimum of 6 credits and up to 15 credits for that academic year. So they're able to start strong that freshman year of college. And we're going to do this with Title I schools across the nation.
That's exciting. Yes, please give her a round of applause. That's important work. And we're going to come back because you talk about really impacting Title I students. That speaks directly into, you mentioned equity in curriculum, yes, and also affordability. By the time those students get to college, like
they have a full semester.
A full semester worth of courses. That's remarkable. I want to come back to the affordability question. Thank you for sharing those initiatives that Google is doing. Really exciting. And you talked about equity in curriculum. So Dr. Martin, tell me about partnerships that Johnson C. Smith University has with corporations, community partners to assist with either curriculum, resources, facilities, all things related to helping prepare students, particularly for jobs in the tech space.
Well, so at Johnson C. Smith University, throughout the whole institution, especially in the College of STEM, we are aggressively seeking partnerships and collaborations to better train our students, whether it's better facilities, better academic access, and whether to enhance the co-curricular environment. So we have partnered with Bank of America locally. They sponsored a hackathon themselves spring semester that started with 5 HBCUs, and Johnson C. Smith was one of those groups, and they're hoping to grow it this spring semester. We are currently partnering with codepath.org. It's an organization that is trying to create a more diverse technology career force, especially with the coding, so that our students are better trained. They are more competitive for some internships and entry-level career, such as Google, one of their big partners. And additionally, we've been working closely with IBM and Deloitte to make sure our students are getting some of these certificates, professional certificates, so that they are competitive once and for post-graduation work and opportunity. In addition to that, not only at the College of STEM, but again, throughout Johnson C. Smith University, with our College of Business, our College of Liberal Arts, we really cross the silos, as they say in academia, to train and cross-train each other. We are partnered with the FBI so we can train the next cyber technologists for the FBI. We've partnered with the Department of Homeland Security so we can train our cybersecurity working force that goes into communities after natural disasters and protects them from cyber attacks. We've definitely partnered with IBM and the local banks for cryptology work. So every time you go swipe your card or you use your phone to pay for something, it's a whole network that's, putting the cyber criminals in the background so they can't catch your passwords and your PIN numbers. So we are working across all aspects at Johnson C. Smith University to make sure our students are as competitive as any other students in the nation or the world.
Love to hear it. Love to hear about those partnerships. Congratulations. Ms. Ladkin, we know that obviously American Airlines is our host sponsor of our Black Enterprise Be Smart Hackathon to prepare our future computer science and emerging tech leaders. Tell us about other initiatives that American Airlines has.
So American is really looking to support high school kids. They support kids that are in college and also recent graduates. So basically what we have is we have programs where kids that are in high school can pair with senior developers at American Airlines, so they get that on-hands training that they have. We also have, I'll just talk about our recent postgraduates that, it's not recent, but it's the recent graduates that just graduated. We have what you call an ADEPT program. It stands for American Airlines Development Program for Technology. What this is it's a 2-year rotation program. It's focused on business and leadership development. It exposes these graduates to various areas within American Airlines. It further strengthens their technical skills that they have. So this program, I've had the opportunity to work with many of the students in a mentorship program. And I also work with them even after they go through the program. I stay with them for some of the students, mentoring them. And I really do try to help them to kind of mentor them and help them kind of propel where they want to excel to and how they get there. Because that is the one thing that I didn't have. I didn't have mentorship when I started at American. Even after I'd been there 20 years, I did not have mentorship. And so I understand the value of that and what that brings. So we've had this program for a while. I would say coming out of the pandemic, we've done awesomely well. We've trended upward in the retention. We've had a retention of about 80% of our team members in this program. So we've done well. We also have another program that we attend for our leaders. It's called ITSMF. It's the Information Technology Senior Management Forum. And what this program does, it's a nonprofit program and out of Atlanta, and it's really to help propel us from a leadership perspective. One of the things that when I first went to the executive program, I needed to understand, how do you manage or maneuver in this world, in this corporate world? And I'm like, what is it that I need to navigate? What are the rules that are not written of how you manage it? And it just hit me when I went to that program. I was in there. It was a 10-month program we have. American is very intentional in sending about 6 to this program every year. And so in this program, I understood exactly what it was. But what it is a program that allows you with nothing but African Americans, and you can sit there, you can kind of let your mask down and you can be you. And you are not afraid to say exactly how you feel about certain things. And so all that comes out. Now I'm open to learning. And they really tear you down so that you don't have a choice but open yourself to learning. Mm-hmm. And that's because normally when we're in these other environments, we kind of keep things close to the vest. This one, you just kind of lay it out, and it's just pouring into you. So these are the type of programs that American has that actually allow us to kind of help prepare ourselves and propel us to the next level.
Love that. American's doing a lot of great things. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Charlita, talk about the city of Charlotte, your role in work, and what is the city of Charlotte doing to partner to recruit and retain HBCU students and graduates?
So it's very interesting, right? Because we're the government. and you would say kind of what is the role of the government, and we are, reflective of the voice of the people. So here in Charlotte, we recognize not only do we have the Charlotte city proper, but we also have the region where we have a significant number of HBCUs in the Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina. So Charlotte is a certified welcoming city. And what does that mean? That means that we focus on belonging and making sure that we can attract and recruit and retain the talent within Charlotte, not only in the city of Charlotte proper, but also the many Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered here. So our mayor and our city council, they launched a mayor's racial equity initiative where they have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into different initiatives, including Johnson C. Smith, our only HBCU here in Charlotte, to continue to make sure that it is positioned to be the employer, the school of choice for employers here in Charlotte. Another thing that we've done, which I think is pretty unique, is we've recognized the competitiveness that it takes to get into colleges here. I believe at North Carolina A&T had the largest enrollment just this year alone. So what we've done at the City of Charlotte is we've created a program, the Mayor's Youth Employment Program, where we are positioning diverse high school students and college students to get internships. Because we know that that is an opportunity to show the differentiation as you're looking to get in college. The other thing that I thought was really cool that we've done here at the City of Charlotte is to celebrate the non-traditional paths that students might take before they actually go into a four-year HBCU or college environment. And so we did just this year did a signing day for students who graduated high school, planning to go to community colleges first before they go to a four-year college, and celebrated them coming to work for the City of Charlotte, just like they would if they were going to a different college. So I thought that was a really good and awesome opportunity. The last point I'll say just about the City of Charlotte and what we do as the role here and as the government is we're really positioning ourselves as a tech hub. And we know that where you are here, so many companies, we're encouraging them to invest in innovation and technology here in Charlotte so that we can continue to attract the students and have our HBCU students want to come here to live and to grow and to thrive in Charlotte.
Love to hear all that the City of Charlotte is doing. Thank you for sharing that, Charlita. For those of you joining us at this Black Enterprise Town Hall, this is called How HBCUs Create the Best and the Brightest. We're joined by Charlita Hatch, the City of Charlotte, Michelle Ladkin with American Airlines, Dr. Jonathan Martin with Johnson C. Smith University, and Melanie Parker with Google. Excited to have a discussion on how corporations can best partner with HBCUs to create employment and educational opportunities as well. You touched on this. You mentioned, signing day, right? There's students who may start at community college and then transfer. I think it probably speaks to the larger issue of college affordability, right? And as we know, UNCF also has research that shows that HBCU students are burdened with student loan debt more so than their Black peers at other non-HBCUs, right? So I think it's important you mentioned students, starting their education where they can and where they can afford it. How does college affordability, especially at a time where we talk about increased enrollment means increased competitiveness, how does college affordability impact a student's ability to be able to, one, get into the college of their dreams, let's say, and then be competitive? I'll start with Charlita, then Melanie.
So as I mentioned, as a first-generation college student, I remember having all of my stuff in the living room ready to go. I needed everything. I needed a hairdryer. I needed a refrigerator that wasn't allowed, Melanie, And I overheard my parents talking, and I had some scholarship money from Hampton, and I had other scholarships. I heard them talking, and they were trying to get the last $1,000.
Wow.
And I ran downstairs, and I was like, tell me, am I going to go to college? And Mom was like, you're going to go to college, because if our ancestors can get people to college, we can surely get you to college. What I didn't know is they took out a loan in order for me to do that. And so when you think about college affordability, until we change the narrative of what it means to be successful here in society and how the entry points to get into good jobs, we have to be able to allow for our students to be positioned for success. We know that Black students aren't at a deficit. We know that Black students are not less smart or less prepared, but we also know there's a generational wealth thing that we have to address. And so college not being affordable and being a barrier, it does not allow us to increase that economic mobility that we need to do for us to have a thriving economy and a thriving world. And so I'm a strong believer in scholarships. I know that sometimes there's a narrative about, meritocracy and giving and handouts, but what it does when you have a scholarship, it gives you the opportunity to not only impact yourself, but to impact your entire family.
Got it. Very important. Melanie.
I had that same pile in my living room, but I never figured out how to get a refrigerator at Hampton University, so hats off to you for that. But, one of the things when we think about affordability is really the equity that's behind that, because it's not like a lack of intellect or intelligence, but there could be a lack of access. And so how do we remove that? And there are a number of different ways to do that successfully, but also to do that with dignity and esteem that have to go hand in hand with while we're helping to provide the support. So one, I mentioned our career certificates that are in lieu of degree, but what would that allow you to do? That would allow you to go to a company, and once you're in that corporation, it would allow you to take advantage of tuition assistance. And so you're able to use that company's dollars and programs to go to school. And then also, like Google, we started student loan repayment. So we do offer some reimbursement to match student loan repayment to help defray those costs. And then there are also historically Black community colleges that I know Thurgood Marshall College Fund and UNCF are now supporting as well. And so there's a number of ways that we have to partner together, because no one organization or company can unilaterally do this. It's how do we partner across the ecosystem and back with these universities and institutions to help make sure that we're providing equity to access to all students, that they have those pathways to do that, and the dollars, and it needs to be sustainable funding. So, one-time scholarships are great, but we need to make sure that there's additional funding sources so that you're not wondering, are you able to come back next semester? Are you able to come back next year? Because then you're not able to really concentrate on your studies and pouring yourself in, because you're worried about how are you going to do that. And you could be worried about, how am I going to eat? Because am I going to make a sacrifice in getting the meal plan, or am I going to make the sacrifice in paying tuition? And so there are a number of things that we have to consider as we continue to partner to make sure that education is affordable for all students.
That's a really big deal. You mentioned that, and it's really exciting to hear all the things Google is doing, not just from the programmatic standpoint, but from the actual resources and investments. Student loan repayment, y'all, that's a big deal. That's a big deal to help people pay off that debt, right? I kind of want to move into a few numbers. As we mentioned, UNCF's recent economic impact report came out, showing that North Carolina's 10 HBCUs create $1.8 billion in economic impact, create more than 16,000 jobs, and generate more than $22 billion with a B, in lifetime earnings for graduates from the class of 2021. Charlotte, I'd love to know, in what ways does job creation benefit the Johnson C. Smith and greater Charlotte community? And then I'll also ask Michelle, when you think about, the Dallas area that you're in, how does this job creation benefit the surrounding community?
So for those who might be familiar, there was a study done on Charlotte and other cities in the community. It's called the Chetty Study. And so Charlotte ranked 50 out of 50 on that. And what that said is that if you were born in poverty in Charlotte, then you were less likely to get out of it. Since then, there's been a new study that came out maybe about a year ago that said, they kind of double-clicked a little bit more. And what they found is that it's also access to social capital, right? So it was just not enough to kind of rally around and put kids in different schools and have corporations throw money if we still aren't sharing the information, still sharing the knowledge, and still sharing the opportunities. So even to the point about the scholarships, you can have scholarships, you can graduate colleges, but do you have access to jobs? And so when you think about that job creation, it's that is how you are able to continue to have that economic mobility in the families. And so when companies have the ability to have technical jobs that are typically in higher paying grades, we know that that is also impacting the students and their families. And so being able to create different types of innovative jobs, data science jobs, cybersecurity jobs, we know that that's positioning not only our community and our city, but also our families for success.
Very important. I like that it's a holistic picture and how it's benefiting not just the student, but the whole family. And actually, Ms. Lack, I'm going to come to you on one more item. I'm going to ask Dr. Martin to tell us about some of the tech jobs that actual Johnson C. Smith University students and I guess alumni have landed and been able to work in, particularly with some of these corporate and community partnerships.
Oh yeah, so our students at Johnson C. Smith, especially as we talk about tech, our computer science students and faculty are very strong. We have recent graduates who are here locally at Bank of America, IBM, Lowe's, American Airlines. They go off and work in Atrium Health, which is one of the largest healthcare systems here on the East Coast. They stay and work also in Charlotte and Mecklenburg public schools, as well as the county government and the city government. So our students are here locally. Just ran into a couple alums who are a new family now, and they work in Chicago with Boeing. And to hear of our computer science students working at Boeing when they come back, it then opens the eyes of our current students that there are opportunities, although there are great opportunities here in the Charlotte region and across the state of North Carolina, there are opportunities across America. And that's one thing we're trying to do in the College of STEM is as we have our students look externally, great opportunities here. But don't limit yourself. If you're looking at internships, entry-level positions, span the United States, span the globe. We're hoping to build an international summer internship program so that students can go internationally and gain that global experience as well. And for us, when we look at our students, it goes back to something President Kinloch mentioned, it's about social mobility. We want to take a lot of first-generation students who may be saddled with high education costs and student loans, to get them into these high-paying fields which are in the tech so that they can not only better themselves, but better their future generations of their family.
Got it. I like that. Supporting them so that they can better support their families, right? Then you're building a generation of college-educated graduates who are working and gainfully employed. Ms. Latkin, in 39 years at American Airlines, I imagine you have seen some pretty dramatic changes in the technology landscape. So I want to talk about that, kind of move into that discussion. Tell me, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen with advancing technology and how that impacted not only your day-to-day work, but also how it impacts recruiting students and how you have to train them for this ever-evolving technological landscape?
So one of the recent, I can say, changes that I've seen, cybersecurity. I've seen cybersecurity, data analytics have really changed the course at American Airlines. Our focus now have been more on the cybersecurity area at American Airlines because, as you know, we went through the pandemic. We know what happened during the pandemic. There were a lot of hackers that were out there during the pandemic. American has to protect the data that we do have. So we put a lot of focus on that, and that has changed sort of the landscape in some of the ways we do business, some of the ways we do development. So we've focused a lot in that space, and we've focused more a lot in data analytics because the data tells you a lot. And so we've we kind of move, not away, but we move more toward data analytics instead of like in the development area because you can manipulate the data and do exactly what you need to do in the development area. So our focus have been a lot in that and has changed how we work and to what our priorities are in our work as it relates to cybersecurity. So I would say those two items are one of the biggest things. Also, what we're now venturing into is more AI. Many of our groups are just chomping at the bit to get to that, but we want to lock that down a little bit more with security. So So many of our, like I say, of our teams are really trying to get into that, but until we can lock that down, which is going to be very soon, we only allow a few of our groups, our operation research groups and so forth, to be involved in that, but it's going to open up. I see that next year as it's going to open up a lot for others to be in.
Got it. Those are important features. Cybersecurity, right? Protecting your data, and AI. There's so many things to say about AI and how it's changing every day and changing how we live, work, interact, connect. Melanie, at Google, what have been some of the biggest, emerging tech changes you've seen that impact not only your day-to-day work, but also how you think about recruiting and training staff and recruits?
Well, it's such an exciting field and such an exciting time. I think that, the research I mentioned earlier and how do we make sure that we have, real-time research opportunities for our students, particularly our HBCU students. At Howard University, we have a program called Project Elevate Black Voices. And Howard has the licensing rights. We made sure of that. And what it does, it's looking at the Black speech and Black dialect in automatic speech recognition, because the research, external research, Google's own research, shows that some of that technology, can't always properly pick up, like across the diaspora, all the different dialects. And so Howard is now leading on this project for Google. And then at Spelman, we, out of google.org, our foundation, we put a $5 million for a first ever Women of Color STEM database, so that with our own UX developers working along with Howard students and faculty, really trying to put this database together. And so what we've learned is that, like, in this exciting world where we want to make sure we're leaving no community behind, the best thing to do is to involve, students and faculty in that research. And one of the things you talked about with cybersecurity, we work very closely with the National Consortium of Cybersecurity. Stillman College, I don't know if you're aware, but they were affected by a malware attack that shut them down for 9 months. And so we partnered with the consortium to provide a cybersecurity grant that we've now provided to dozens of other HBCUs to equip not just with how do you protect your school, but how do they help small businesses in the surrounding area. So you're getting experience with helping businesses thrive and protect themselves as well. So we're all in with, we're leaders and we're learners, and we do both transparently, but we're bringing others in so that we're learning and leading at the same time.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I had the privilege to interview Stillman's president, Dr. Yolanda Page, from
Yes.
our podcast at Black Enterprise. And she did mention about the hack, but what it did was then create a catalyst to say, let's start a program, or at least boost an existing program for cybersecurity, for students to study that, right? What happened for their bad, they ended up turning into
That's
their
right.
good to train students.
And they
literally.
help other HBCUs stand these programs up. But she's, working back with the local community and small business owners to help them protect themselves.
That's important. That's really, really important. Dr. Martin, let's talk a little bit about how this evolving tech landscape has impacted your instruction, your work as a dean. How is it impacting what you do?
Well, it impacts it every day. We talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all those different aspects of that. So I was recently asked this question over the summer at a STEM leadership conference, and as the only HBCU representative there, they said, well, what are your thoughts on how it affects your particular HBCU and HBCUs? I said, well, I look at artificial intelligence and machine learning, and I look at it as a fact that most HBCUs have probably missed or not been as strong as they wanted in past tech revolutions. And I said, as the Dean of the College of STEM at Johnson C. Smith University, I'm going to empower our faculty to make sure that we don't miss this tech revolution. We are not going to be in the back seat or on the sidelines when it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning. With that, we actually have a group of faculty who just were recently awarded a National Institutes of Health Award to study the effects of AI and machine learning on health informatics, an understanding of health informatics and how we use health data to actually build the next level of prescription, the next level of healthcare. And it's often missing what it should be capturing amongst African American population. So we have partnered with locally here, UNC Charlotte, Prairie View A&M, and Texas Southern to begin to build artificial intelligence and machine learning understanding of health informatics so it can more positively affect and predict and be used to support African American healthcare.
Got it. Healthcare, that's a really big deal. We need all the correct data and protected data, and especially in the healthcare field. Charlita, tell us about the city of Charlotte. How is emerging and advancing technology impacting your work, and also some of the programs you're doing to recruit students as well?
So again, across the city, as we think about being a tech hub on the East Coast, we know the skills in demand are software engineering, cybersecurity, and data and analytics. And so I would say I've been in the technology space for almost 20 years, and one of the things that I feel very strongly about, and I think it's to Michelle's point, is that it is constantly changing. The way in which we do our work, the languages that we're using, there's always new emerging technologies. It's AI right now, it will be something else tomorrow. And so I just want to underscore my earlier point around curiosity and being able to learn and be agile, because you can come out of your HBCU and have a strong foundation in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And then 5 years into your career, it will be something else. And I think it's just important to kind of keep that open mindset, which is probably a little bit different for those who probably grew up doing mainframes, like this is what you know and this is what you do. And it was a little bit more stagnant, but it's changing overall. And so the city, I believe, is embracing that. And even within the city of Charlotte proper as an organization, our technology division, it's called Innovation and Technology, and I love that because we lead with innovation, and we have that on the forefront of all of our technology decisions.
I love that, leading with innovation, and that's at the forefront. I want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about, preparing HBCU students and graduates for these roles, but you got to get to college first, right? And talk about the pipeline. And Charlita is a published author, and I know you've also done research centered around elementary-aged Black boys. So let's talk a little bit about your work, your research, and how that prepares those Black boys to be college and career-ready Black men.
So I'm a doctoral student, and I'm studying how Black boys matriculate through the education system in school choice environments, which North Carolina is. And what we know, and we probably all understand, is the school-to-prison pipeline. And we understand the data that says if you're not reading on or at grade level by the 3rd grade, then that is how the prisons start to understand kind of the pipeline that they need to be prepared for at a certain age. And so as you start to think about that, literacy is the underscoring for everything. So why would digital literacy be different? And so now when you start to think about how kids, so you talked about Dr. Martin College kids not being on the sideline, but I would argue that even in elementary, kids are coding. Kids are on social media. They're building robots. They're looking at drones. And so one, as a parent, I need to embrace that. I need to understand it. Instead of saying a hard no, you can't do it, I need to figure out how we can do it safely, but also within the schools and within the curriculum. How are we modernizing it and meeting the students where they are? And so when we think about, to your point about the books, literacy is one form where you're just reading books, but there's also digital literacy, and we have to have that at a very young age.
Digital literacy. How do we have that at a very young age?
So I think it goes back to embracing it. I think I have a 7-year-old son, and I could easily be a parent that says you will not get on the internet, you will not use a web page, you will not use a drone. But if we don't embrace it, our kids are going to be on the sidelines, to Dr. Martin's point, of this tech revolution. And so when you're in schools, the same way that he is challenging his professors to embrace the technologies, we need our public school education, which is one of the largest in the state, I think the top 20 in the nation here in Charlotte. We need our teachers to be empowered to embrace the technology as well.
Got it. Ms. Ladkin, let's speak a little bit to the pipeline. How do we get students ready before they're even entering college?
So I would say one of the things that we're doing at American Airlines, as I talked earlier, we are really looking at students that are in high school. Mm-hmm. We have programs that we are working with those students. We have also working with students that are in college, And basically, while they're in college, they also are employed at American Airlines. So that is one of the things that we're helping in that perspective. But what that does is that opens the pipeline for us. That opens the pipeline for them, you know, for us to be like having that young talent to come in. And so we're really focusing on that. Our IT department right now is going through a transformation. And our transformation right now is really to focus on technical skills, but technical skills combined with leadership skills, because that is what's going to propel us more into the future. Because as we talked about up on the stage today, it's evolving, it's steady changing, and you're absolutely right about the mainframe. I mean, that's what I came in as, but that has evolved so much. But unfortunately for American Airlines, our entire flight operating system is actually on the mainframe. It's how we get off the mainframe, and that's what we're working toward. And that's evolving with the new technology. And that pipeline of students that we have coming in, that's to help us with that. So American is solely working through that pipeline. We have the ADEPT program. We're working through that pipeline, bringing students in. And our intention is HBCU students as well in that pipeline. And so we're focusing and trying to bring more students in through the pipeline, because the one thing we've seen is that we used to go to the same place. And when we go to the same place, we get the same thing. And then we come back and say, there are no students that are available. And yet there are Black students that are out there that are available. And we've seen that. I've seen that with ITSMF. I went to a leadership conference, and there were 800 leaders, managers, and above. 800 Black managers and above at this conference in San Antonio. Opened my eyes completely. So they're out there. Mm-hmm. The pipeline is there. So American is establishing that pipeline to bring those individuals into American Airlines. And as you know, I've been there 39 years. I've seen it evolve where the landscape of what American looks like is different than what it used to be 39 years ago. I used to be in meetings where I was the only Black. I was the only female. I've seen that landscape. It's changing. Don't get me wrong. We have a lot to do, more to do. But I've seen the landscape changing with the pipeline that we've instituted and bringing more individuals into the airline industry.
Awesome. Thank you for what you do. Because I would be remiss in saying that there are even folks watching who are also here in this room at Lowe's Tech Hub, that, you know, even younger African-American professionals who are here because you have been here, right? You being the only woman, you being the only Black person, like things are so much more open and diverse now because you were one of the first. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Seriously, thank you for what you do.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Dr. Martin, you are an HBCU alum, and you spent nearly all of your formal career at HBCUs. So let's talk about the pipeline, right? How are we preparing students for specifically an HBCU education and on to career?
Well, one of the things we do when we look at the pipeline or the pathway, we go back. We have started to go back as early as elementary school. I think our comfort zone is going back as far as middle school, and begin to offer STEM, tech camps over the summer, weekday, weekend experiences for not only the students, but the teachers and the staff as well, so that they can continue their professional development. So that we can begin to, if there is an inkling that you are interested in science, technology, that you can get that early on and continue that bug until you get to college. And then once you get to college, what we try to do at Johnson C. Smith is we try to make sure in our introductory courses and a suite of courses for our STEM students, we begin to build community. I think we discussed that earlier about diversity, equity, inclusion, and adding the B, belonging. Students in this generation want to know they belong, they're a part of something, and that you care for them. And once they understand that, we know we can push them. We can push them to levels that they may have not have thought that they could get to. And we know if they don't quite meet that level, that they know we care for them, that we're going to help them get to that level. So at HBCUs, it's not always about the academics, the co-curricular. It's about the culture. It's about what we do for our students, what we do for the faculty and staff, how we wrap our arms around everyone to make sure you're academically prepared, you're socially and emotionally prepared. So that's what we do at Johnson C. Smith. It's not always about, you know, the equations and all that. It's about letting the students know you're there for them, providing the opportunities for success. We have a wonderful success program at Johnson C. Smith University in which we bring all of our students in. We pair them with success coaches. We pair them with advisors. Even say June or July, before they get there in August. They know these people. They're interacting with these people. They are video conferencing thanks to the pandemic with these people, and they're beginning to build that community. They are video conferencing with me. They're video conferencing with other faculty. They're getting letters and emails from us welcoming them. So we begin to build it early on. Throughout the curriculum, we're always looking to develop and enhance our curriculum, and we're not scared to let our students go external. We actually promote them. Go external. We can teach you the academics. We want you to go to American Airlines. We want you to go to Lowe's, Nationwide, Google, so that you can really get that career honing and understanding before you leave Johnson C. Smith.
Got it. I think there's something significant that both Dr. Martin and Ms. Ladkin touched on. There's students that are getting paired with senior developers, right? Deans of college. I mean, I think that's a really big deal in terms of mentorship, right? And that's also a really exciting opportunity with our Black Enterprise Be Smart Hackathon as well, is that while students are at this competitive 24-hour coding competition, they are paired on site. There are mentors, there are tech leaders from American, from some of our other partners who are helping these students to gain the skills and help them literally work through problems in real time. Charlita, as we wrap here before we open it up to our audience for Q&A, tell us, what is the significance of mentorship, particularly for HBCU students who are in the tech space?
So while I was at Hampton, I had the opportunity to do an independent study with our CIO, who went on to be the first female chancellor at North Carolina Central. And while there, we wrote a grant, we received the grant, and I ended up implementing a technology camp for middle school boys. And through that, she was coaching me. She was teaching me how to do a project plan. She was teaching me about the budget. She was teaching me about the relevant skills that the boys needed to know. So she was teaching me first, and I was teaching them. And I went on to have my first job at IBM as a technology consultant, where I used those skills. I didn't know what a technology consultant was. I had no ambition or any desire to do that. And I think it goes back to you can't be what you can't see. It wasn't that I was against it, I just didn't know that it existed. And having that mentorship and having that person day in and day out coaching me, exposing me, bringing me to DC where she kind of accepted her grant, all of those things really just opened my eyes to the technology career that I have today. And so mentorship is not just about being there, showing somebody the technical skills, but it's actually taking it a step further and caring. And so that careship.
I like that, careship, and it sounds like a lot of that extends from HBCU campuses as well, where people are caring about you and investing in you to make sure you get the opportunities that, you know, the different companies and corporations provide, but also the mentors that are training you also care, as well as just, you know, showing you the ropes. They're really investing in you, in your emotional well-being is there. That's important. Thank you so much, Charlita. Thank you for that. We'd love to open it up to our audience for questions. We have folks with mics on each side. Wave your hand high and let us know if you have a question for our panelists. Tell us your name, your company, and your question, please.
I'm Sarah Cooper, and I'm from American Airlines. I do want to thank you all for coming. You guys mentioned a lot of programs that have been enacted in the past. I am a two-time Be Smart Hackathon participant. I also did CodePath. I was a TPM, and I also was an adept when I was in American Airlines, and still am. I want to know, what do you guys think the next big thing is for bringing in more African Americans into tech? We talked about these different programs which are going on right now, which weren't available maybe 10 or 20 years ago. What do you see the next 10 and 20 years being like?
Good, great question.
Yeah.
I can start. So I think right now, based off our conversations here on the panel, there's been a lot of entry-level conversations. And there's this kind of term called the cliff, right? So it's not the glass ceiling with women, but for Black folks in particular, is the cliff where there's a certain point you get to, you can't get past it. So I would like to see the shift to be really not just the leadership program on rebranding yourselves and all of those things, because we know we've got it. But really the access and the opportunity to kind of lead and have that representation at the executive level across the different technology spaces. So I think once we lock in entry level, we've got to figure out how we navigate through the rest of the career spectrum.
Good point.
That's a good point, because what I've seen is once you come in, then you're trying to navigate your way through. I'm just going to use American Airlines as an example. You're trying to navigate your way through American Airlines. And I'll just lean on my own story in particular, is that I've seen where I came in, but I had no way to navigate through that. And I would like to see something like what we have today, the ITSMF program that we have. It helps us as leaders to kind of hone those skills. Because at the end of the day, we need to be at the table where the decisions are being made. Not with the worker bees, we want to be at the table where the decisions are being made. And I would like to see more emphasis placed on that aspect. And so just within our own department that we have, that's one of the things we are focusing on. It's small right now, it's just within our own group. But that is something that I've focused on as well, just to try to make sure people have what they need to kind of move themselves through this maze of corporate America. Because if somebody is not there to kind of help you with that, establish those relationships, establish those mentorship, those sponsorship. Because at the end of the day, you have mentors, but you don't have a sponsor. A sponsor is going to be someone that, look, when the doors is closed, who's going to speak on my behalf? And that's what we need to kind of equip our students to go out and develop those relationships, those trusts, because when jobs come open, it may not be available or known to many. That relationship that you just develop with that sponsor, hey, Sarah, there's an opening that's coming up soon. This is what I think you need to do. And I'm going to help you. I got the network. I'm going to introduce you to Tom. Tom is the hiring manager. Those are things that happen. Those are those unwritten rules that goes on that is not in the book. And so that's what I'm trying to do to help. And I want to see more of that as we move forward in this space.
Love to see that.
And I'll start there and echo what my other panelists have said. It's really about building network. And for this generation, how do you develop your network? I have a friend of mine who says your network will increase your net worth.
Yep.
And so
That's right.
what I see in actually having two Black sons, 17 and 21, how do we build networking skills? How do we build those soft skills in this generation? So that's one thing that we can begin to work on in the academic setting. And that's one thing I know we're working on at Johnson C. Smith throughout all academic units, is how do we build those soft skills? How do we take you away, not away, but outside of the academic classroom and build those soft skills? It's true that you need mentorship, you need networking coaches. And so we're trying to develop that and develop a familiarity with that with our students. And then going back 10 to 20 years, we need to make sure there is a pathway and a strong pipeline of the next generation of tech workers or science workers. And so going back into the elementary schools, the middle schools, showing them that as institutions of higher education, we're here to support your learning and your development, not only for the students, but for the school systems, for the principals, for the teachers, for the staff, so that they know that they can lean into us for our knowledge on these specific technologies or sciences or whatever degree path it is, and translate it back to those students in early middle school, high school, even elementary school.
The earlier the better, right?
And I would say just one more point, Sarah, since you asked the question, and to kind of echo what Michelle said. Always remember that your manager talks to you, a mentor talks with you, and your sponsor talks about you. And you should know who those people are. It shouldn't be a secret.
One more time. That was sage advice. One more time.
So your manager talks to you, your mentor talks with you, and your sponsor talks about you. Some of them are the same, some of them are different, but you should be very clear on who they are.
Good stuff. Excellent question. Thank you so much. Thank you for those responses.
And don't be afraid to reach out to someone and ask them to be your mentor. The only thing they could do is tell you yes or no. And then you move on. If they say no, you move on to the next person. Don't stop there, because you are investing in your career. That's an investment for you.
Very important, very important. Thank you for that question. Other questions from the audience?
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Kearse, a proud Morehouse College alumna. Just curious, African American people in general are resilient people, but in terms of like what's been your biggest pivot in terms of your post-college career, what was that sticking point? And then what are some advice that you would give to someone younger than you about how to navigate those sticking times? Because oftentimes, like even when you are courageous to take that first career leap, to step outside of the box that you're currently in and maybe take a lateral jump versus a vertical jump, how do you handle those times of high stress or not feeling welcome or I want to learn, but it's something that I don't know anything about? What's some time in your life where you had to figure that pivot, and then something that you would say to somebody about how to handle that?
For me, I would say that I had to pivot from, we talk about the mainframe, I'll use that as an example, and I had to pivot more to new technology, which I did not know at a level that I thought I should know, as I knew from a mainframe perspective. But as I talk about sponsors and I talk about relationships and networking, I have a sponsor. And I used to talk to my mentor as well about it. And my mentor is the one that gave me some of the guidance and encouragement to say, this is what you need to do, Michelle. But even when I felt that I had fallen back, they were there to pick me up and encourage me to keep pushing. And sometimes that's what you need. You just need that encouragement. Somebody's there that's always going to encourage you. And that's when you have that trusting relationship. Because we talk about relationship currency. And that's always about having somebody that you trust and someone that's going to be there for you, someone that's with you investing in your career. And so I've had that later on in my life. I had to figure it out early on in my life, but later on in my life, in my career, I've had that, and that's what has really pushed me moving forward. So right now, I'm director over crew platform technology. I used to be more on the flight operating side. I have that still, that hasn't gone away. Mainframe developers or mainframe knowledge are hard to come by, so that's still in my portfolio. But I'm also able to move into more newer technology. And so I'm involving with, as the emerging technology is coming available, I'm involving in that space as well.
I guess mine came much earlier, even before I started my career. I had gotten my PhD, I was doing my fellowship work. I was working for a black scientist at the time, had spent some time at Merck looking at drug development. And an opportunity came up to go to an HBCU to start my career. Many people who had trained me didn't have a clue what a HBCU was.
Wow.
Even the black scientists I was working for said, I'd never heard of that university. And I had a former professor say, did you waste your time the last 8 years if you were going to go back to an HBCU?
Wow.
So, you know, I had to lean into myself personally and just say, everybody says I'm a good educator. I want to go back and inspire the next generation of black scientists. I want to go back and help transform our institutions in science and technology so that we can be as competitive as some of these institutions that you all have heard of before. So I took it as a challenge. The black scientist I assumed was a mentor at that point in time, I guess was more of a manager. So that I had to take a big pivot at that point in time, but I still had to lean into those people because I needed their expertise when I was writing my entry-level grants to really bolster the science I could do because someone at X institution said I could do it. And so I still had to keep those relationships and evolve those relationships. But personally, I had to say to myself and look in my network of care and say, I'm going to make this change. And they've probably never trained anyone who's made this change. And hopefully the next time someone makes this change, it's not a change, a decision that they wanted to make, they'll be more supportive of it. If not more supportive, more understanding of it.
So I have two. One's a little bit more personal, but it impacted career, and it was the birth of my first son. And the whole time I was pregnant, I was thinking, my career's not going to change. I'm not going to change. I'm going to keep traveling Monday through Thursday. That baby will stay with his daddy, and I'll see him on the weekend. And I even calculated that I would have more quality hours over the weekend than my husband would have during the week. And then he came. And I had to completely change, not my career, but the way in which I worked. And it was so hard for me because I was all in, and I probably in an unhealthy way now that I say it out loud, but I had to completely change the way I worked, and it was very hard for me to think about how do you set boundaries and how do you tell the people that you work for, like, I gotta leave, I have to do this, and they're not used to you saying that. So once you do it, there's a form of empowerment because, to Michelle's point, most people aren't going to tell you no. They're going to keep working you until you create your boundaries. But if you're delivering and you're, a high executor, they're going to support you. And I had to learn that. The second one is probably where I am now. So I spent 18 years doing technology consultant in corporations, and now I'm at the government. I never thought that I would work for the government. I never thought that it just wasn't even a thought in my head. And so I'm about a little over 3 months into this role, and I'm adjusting. And I am having to adapt to a different culture, different rules, different policies, different laws that apparently you don't have in corporate America, different work styles, different cultures, and then even with the technologies, I get to help modernize it in different ways, but it's all different. And so I would say, to the points that I've made earlier around the curiosity and just staying agile and flexible, I know I'm going to get there. Because I know I have those skill sets in my toolkit from my HBCU experience. So I don't think you ever stop pivoting. And I think Michelle is saying she wants us all to pivot. So I don't think we ever stop pivoting. You just have to be patient with yourself.
We have one more question.
So I want to thank all of the panelists for participating in this town hall. My question is, how do we get to scale to get more universities involved? So it's a combination for universities. How do we get more cities and states involved? And then, of course, how do we get more folks in corporate America involved, right? It's outstanding that we've got American Airlines involved, we've got Lowe's involved, we've got Nationwide involved, we've got Google involved, and others who are sponsors of this big event, but we need to have 100 corporations in attendance as sponsors, and we need to have 50 cities, right? And we need to have all 100 HBCUs to do it. How can you assist us, or what would your advice be in terms of getting what we're doing here and what we're discussing here in technology? We're about to have the first president of the United States come from an HBCU, right? God willing. Right. So give me your advice, or give us your advice on how we get to scale.
Excellent question. Excellent question.
So I look at it from an academic institution. You need a champion at that institution. And I don't know how you get into there. And it can even be students. When students come to me and say, I want to participate in a hackathon, I want to go to a conference, it's hard for me to say no. When faculty come, I can say, well, can we find funding? When students come, I say, well, let me see if I can find funding. So I think the biggest thing in educational institutions, and especially HBCUs, is to find that champion. And it could be amongst students. So maybe I would say invite students to come independently and support them to come from institutions who may not be represented. Make a wild card team or two from institutions that aren't represented so they can take back the feeling, the knowledge that they have to their institution and maybe work internally to gain that champion. That has helped. We had a hackathon last year in Dallas in the spring, and I'm not sure what it was for, and I had 4 students come to me and say, we've been invited to this hackathon. We don't have a faculty member to go with us. So, and I said, okay, we'll work on that. And within 2 weeks, we had a faculty member to go, and we had supported them to make sure they could go to the hackathon and spend a week there. So, and we're going back again this year because we understand the value. So as far as academic educations, and especially our HBCUs, you have to find a champion or two inside the institution to support it.
Very good point.
But it's not, I would say, it's not just the champion at the institutions, right? It's the champion at the corporations as well. And because at a lot of these corporations or these companies, you find that you do have students from HBCUs are there. So it's more of a partnership incorporating both of them, both the students and both the companies. Champion, let's move forward together in this. Because if we're moving forward, if I got somebody from American Airlines that's at a HBC, that's as an HBCU student, and they're coming to me and say, hey, Michelle, look, I really would like us to be involved in this. And then I have at least some weight where I can go up the ladder to corporate America and say, look, I think we need to put some of these dollars aside to help champion this and bringing them both together. Once we get both of them together, I think that helped propel and increase the participation across. So I think it's kind of bringing both of them together.
So I think I got the third part of the formula. So we got institutions, corporations, and I'm going to say alumni. Because I think that we have a responsibility, to the points made, to reach back and to invest into our students in whatever seat that we're sitting in, right? And so if we all agree that technology is kind of the form of literacy across, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, corporate government, then as an HBCU technology executive, it is my responsibility to make sure that I am championing for these opportunities like a hackathon and using my voice to put HBCUs in the room. Every company I've worked for, I'm always now, how do I get Hampton on the list for recruitment, right? And so now I need to make sure that I'm saying, how can I make sure that we're supporting the hackathon? Yeah. And so we've got to figure out, because we're out there, where are the technology Black leaders that went to HBCUs and hold them responsible alongside the corporations that they work for and alongside partnering with their institutions.
Very valuable insights, very valuable insights. And I'll add as well in terms of helping to make the case even with government. You know, we have data. You know, make the case for HBCUs. This report that was just released, and I keep harping on it because there's such valid talking points with UNCF's HBCU Economic Impact Report. HBCUs create a $16.5 billion impact on the U.S. In North Carolina alone, the HBCUs create a $1.8 billion economic impact, creating 16,000 jobs just here in the state of North Carolina. Make the case to your local and state leaders that HBCUs are providing and creating tremendous economic impact and value, job creation, lifetime earnings for graduates, right? So it's important that they invest in these institutions. Another way you can also make the case, I'm sure you all heard, it's been about a year ago that the Secretaries of Education and Agriculture sent a letter to governors in about 16 states saying that because of your historic underfunding of HBCUs to the tune of more than at least $13 billion, right? They're trying to recoup some of this money that states have historically owed Black colleges. When we properly fund them on the state level and the federal level, that means more dollars can go into, more students, opening up enrollment, students being able to afford college, right? And then us having the pathways to make sure they're partnering with city and state government, with corporations, the institutions as well, having those partnerships to have that pathway and that open door for HBCU students so that they can become the best and the brightest. Any other audience questions? Okay. Oh, final? Mm-hmm.
So this one might be a little bit of a hard one. So I know this whole event is geared towards how HBCUs create the best and the brightest. And I'm glad that everyone who was on the panel was an HBCU alumni and they're African American. But how do we incorporate those who aren't Black into this conversation to promote HBCUs and the greatness that they develop? And do you think that we should include them, or should this be solely powered by Black people?
Representing HBCUs, I mean, we look to grow our enrollment, and we look for the best and brightest. We are not exclusionary. And we invite anyone to apply to HBCU, specifically Johnson C. Smith University. Our new era of excellence is something truly powerful happening here in the city of Charlotte at our HBCU. We welcome the opportunity. As I say, we have a community that believes in belonging. If you come to us, you're one of us. You're a golden bull. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to help you become your best and your brightest. So our doors, our gates at 100 Beatties Ford Road are open for any student who's ready for the academic challenge.
So Sarah, I would say at the last hackathon, Southern University is my alma mater. And when I saw the representative from Southern University, they did not look like me. And so that's a testament of that's evolving, that they're getting other students that from other ethnic background to be a part of that university. And the way I look at it, I embrace them because they are my alma mater. And so, but I can see that for some of the HBCUs, some of that is changing. That is evolving to not just people that look like me, it's people that, from other ethnic background. And we embrace that as they come into that fold.
I usually like to start questions like that with saying, let's take race off the table, let's go gender, right? So I get to sponsor a lot of different women's activities or events or networking groups, and I always advocate for men to be in the room. We have to have our male allies alongside us. We need them to be the voices in the room. Sometimes a male can say something to another male that won't come off as controversial if a woman addresses it in the workplace. So now we bring race back into it in the HBCUs. I absolutely think our kind of non-Black counterparts should be championing our HBCUs. We give them the data, we hold them accountable, we invite them to our events, we invite them and help to make sure they feel like they belong, but we need their voices in order to create the jobs, to create the opportunities, to create what do we need that's relevant. All voices matter because we know when we come out of our HBCUs, we want our students to be able to operate in whatever community they live, and we know that it's not all Black. So I definitely think there's spaces for all voices to advocate for HBCUs.
Absolutely, spaces for all voices to advocate for HBCUs. And as Ms. Ladkin mentioned, at our hackathon, there are students from various diversities. They are HBCU students, right? And we want them to be competitive. The whole purpose of our hackathon is to make sure that students are not only growing their skills, gaining mentors, gaining connection, but we want them to be recruited on site for internship and job opportunities. And that's only possible thanks to the partnerships by city and state government, thanks to our academic partners, and thanks to corporations as well. So again, thanks to each of you for being here at our Lowe's Tech Hub for this discussion with Black Enterprise, how HBCUs create the best and the brightest. And to all of you watching, thank you as well. Let's please show our love once again to all of our panelists today for being here. Charlita Hatch, Michelle Ladkin, Dr. Patrick Martin, and Melanie Parker. So as we close out our panel, I would love to introduce Black Enterprise's Executive Vice President and Chief Content Officer, Mr. Derek Dingle. Please show him your love.
Thank you, Ashley, with fantastic moderation of our session. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for today's Black Enterprise Town Hall, how HBCUs create the best and brightest. My name is Derek Dingle, Chief Content Officer for Black Enterprise and a proud alumnus of Norfolk State University. We hope you've gained valuable information and insights from our conversation and the vital elements that our panel shared about the value of HBCUs in creating a diverse workforce and strategies to elevate professionals, companies, and our nation. We would like to thank our esteemed panel for their impassioned and impactful conversation and the nuggets of actionable insight and advice that they provided. We would also like to extend our deep appreciation to our town hall sponsor, Nationwide, as well as Lowe's and American Airlines for making today's program possible and their sponsorship of the Black Enterprise Be Smart Hackathon. We look forward to seeing you at our hackathon November 14th through the 17th at the Marriott City Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. We expect the hackathon to offer a phenomenal experience, not only for the competing students, but for all of us. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much.